Hi everyone, and welcome to this information video about thermal hunting. Now I get a lot of questions about scopes and spotters and specs and base mag and what am I buying or where do I start. So hopefully after you watch this you'll have all the information you need to be able to go out there and narrow down the choices, understand what all the damn numbers mean and be able to compare devices within your price bracket. Now just FYI, I don't sell anything, I have no affiliation with any particular brand. I'll give you facts, information and some real world examples, but the decision is ultimately up to you. This video will be a little longer than usual, but hopefully you'll come away from it knowing what to do next. So where do you start? Well, I have to say you start with a budget. What do you want to spend on a scope? Do you want a spotter as well? Most people don't have an endless supply of money and aren't going to drop 15 grand on a spotter and a scope. So work out what you want to spend and go from there. Also keep in mind that most thermal scopes will do the job, just with less detail. The more detail you have, the better you can ID things at greater distances. So what's first? If you can't have both, well then I would recommend getting a thermal spotter first and a thermal scope second. Get a spotter and decent night vision setup. I know a lot of people who use thermal spotters and then spotlight or use a good night vision scope on the target. While having both a scope and a spotter is nice, the reality is some people just can't afford it. If you only have a scope, you'll get pretty sick of looking through your gun all night, especially if you're walking around scanning paddocks. But you'll also end up pointing a gun somewhere it shouldn't be pointed. But let's say you can afford both. Decide what you want to spend on both. More of the budget should go into the scope, in my opinion. It's doing the final ID and then the shot to get the best that you can afford. I would also suggest a wider field of view in the spotter if you get the choice for safety reasons. It'll help you be aware of your surroundings and also make it easier to scan paddocks quickly and see more of what's happening around you. So how do you narrow it down? Well, some basic questions will help you get you on the right track. For example, let's say you like the traditional scope look. Well, then it's easy. Pulsar and InfIray tube series have that market cornered in Australia, standard 30mm rings, so go look at them. Done. Easy. But say you don't mind the look of either. Well, then what's your budget? Let's go look at what you can afford. Low budget, Nighttech MS19. Higher budget, Thermion 2 XP50. Do you want a rangefinder? InfIray or Pulsar True? Trail 2 are the go with those. Some of these simple questions will quickly help you narrow down the choices. Things like, do you prefer a clip-on? Pulsar, InfIray and HIKMICRO are some of your choices there. I have seen clip-ons be used as the spotter and as the scope. If you're quick enough you can spot it, then attach to the scope for the shot. This is a popular option that I have seen being used a lot more recently, especially for those who run the same scopes on all their rifles. So what now? Well, what's important to you? Warranty, battery life, resale? What are you hunting? Rabbits, foxes, pigs? Once you've decided on your budget and what you want to be able to do with the scope, some of the basic features like rangefinder, the look, the dedicated scope or a clip-on will have narrowed down the field dramatically already before we've even looked at the specs. Now let's delve into some numbers. Base mag core, micron, NETD, what the hell does it all mean? A few people push base mag over core. Get a 384 core with a higher base mag, they say. Well, that's not me. There is no one spec that makes the scope better than the others. It's a combination of the scope specs that make it good, and unfortunately when you're comparing them across all the different brands, they all differ in specs, so you're never actually comparing apples with apples. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and give you a quick example of what I mean. Now don't get me wrong, base magnification is important, but you shouldn't base your decision on just that. I'll try and show you why. So let's try to compare apples with apples. These two scopes are very close to apples. One is half the resolution of the other, but with a higher base mag. Now same manufacturer. Now what do they look like? Now if I zoom in the 640 to the same size picture as the higher base mag, which one looks better? I'll let you choose. No point zooming the lower res one, but we will anyway. Now let's look at distant objects. Same scopes, same time, same day. Now remember we lose quality in the recording, but we lose it equally across both scopes. So does the 640 outperform the lower core? Well, yes it does. Did the base mag matter? Well, in my opinion, no. Now if I run a base mag with picture-in-picture on the 640, what gives me a better picture-in-picture image? The higher res core does, because overall it's a better spec scope. So if I want to be in a base mag with a nice looking picture-in-picture, which one gives me the better image? Now I'll zoom out. I get a much wider field of view in the lower base mag, so I can see my surroundings. One thing about higher base mag is if you miss, you better be quick and accurate to follow that target. I have scanned over rabbits that were too close. I've had foxes pop out of creeps in front of me and we both crap ourselves. So what am I getting at? Well, a 640 core gives you more pixels, which means gives you more to work with from the onset. So my point, you can't take one spec and say it's better or more important. Take all the specs, compare the actual device as a whole. A better device will give you a better picture and more uses. So what about the core? Well, the core in conjunction with the NETD gives you your picture. More pixels across and down means a better image, and a lower NETD means it can tell the smaller differences in temperature between surfaces, also leading to a better picture. So core, in my opinion, is the highest you can afford. But keep in mind the lower resolution cores will still do the job, just with less detail. Now the NETD you want low. The lower it is, the better it can see more differences in temperatures between objects. Now this is especially important in bad weather. Bad weather is where the higher NETD scopes will start to wash out. If you're outside freezing your ass off, then guess what? Everything is freezing its ass off. So higher NETD means it sees less temperature detail between objects. Hope that makes sense. This is also true of the micron rating of the scope. Lower is better. Now lenses, you'll commonly see a couple of numbers with the lenses. One will be size and the other will be an F. Now the germanium lens is expensive. It's the expensive part of the whole scope. So what does it mean? Well, simply put, the F of the lens is the aperture. The lower the F, the more that light gets through. So for a better picture in an F1 is better than an F1.2. Now most lenses on scopes are aiming for an F1 to 1.2, but if you want to be picky, then you want a 1.0. Next up, battery life. How long does it last? Can I change batteries on the go? Do spares cost a fortune? The scope startup time. Does it have sleep function? Can I record? Does it record audio? Is the menu system a pain in the ass to use? These factors are also important and may influence your decision, but they come second to getting the best sensor. Startup times and sleep functions, while important, aren't the main focus till after you've decided on your scope. Things like raw recording, audio, wireless apps, whilst important, some say they aren't, some say they do. So it's a personal preference. So I just suggest writing down the ones that are important to you once you've narrowed down the field. Depending on your usage, they may be important enough to lean you towards one scope or another. Now I hope this has helped you understand where to start. You should buy the best scope you can afford. That's a no-brainer. But can you base it off one thing? Well, no. Don't buy a scope based off base magnification alone. In fact, don't buy it based off any one thing. It's a combo deal. So to recap, how do I start narrowing it down? Well, budget. Best you can afford. Then base mag, style, battery life, warranty, menu, everything else that matters. There will always be new scopes, better specs, new brands, but if you can narrow it down now and you buy the one that does the job you need it to do, then you won't need to swap it over for quite a while. As they get better, we get more and more detail. Some people don't want the detail. Some people just want to shoot the fox. And if I can shoot the fox with this one, then I'll keep shooting the fox. Now be warned and careful out there on social media. It's a double-edged sword. Some people push what they sell and badmouth other brands. Some are honest reviews, some are endorsed, some are paid. Some just like shooting. So listen to all the info, but do try talking to mates. As a preference, honest opinions of people who are currently using the stuff is the best source, and there is no substitute for going out there and actually seeing the devices in action and having a bit of a play. Now, do go down to your friends, go check out the local shop, ask questions in groups, get as much hands-on as you possibly can, and then when you do actually pull the trigger, you will get exactly what you want. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. Hopefully you can now compare the specs of each scope and understand what the differences between them will be. Thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button, post any questions or comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.